How you guys doing today? Welcome into Rover Sports. Whew! The New York Giants lose a tough game against the Saints today. I'm not going to even say it was a difficult game. A difficult loss to handle from a fan standpoint. Because the New York Giants, they just have limited upside as an offensive team. I mean, in the first half, we kind of played this ball control kind of offense. First quarter of the game, honestly, successful drive, get up 7-0 on those guys. New Orleans then claws back, controls a lot of the first half. We did hold them to field goals. The Wayne Gallman fumble certainly hurt, but a lot of our routes, not a lot are deep throwing routes. The furthest throw that Eli will hit is a Sterling Shepard little out pattern. Barkley broke off some nice runs, especially on the touchdown run or on the we broke out with a nice run on that final drive, and I guess we can build something on that. I mean, getting the 2-point, that was really exciting football there for that final stanza. But honestly, the defense, in the second half of the game, really letting Drew Brees, letting him hit crossers, or linebackers were out of spots. There really wasn't a lot of pressure on Drew Brees today. Maybe in the first half a little bit with James Bettcher, but just not a consistent program, not a consistent defense. Offensively, this team really lacks a lot of pop. Eli will miss a lot of throws. The offensive line can only block a certain number of times, so you end up dumping the football off a lot, and you just lack a big play. No offenses are really good. No defenses are going to fear the New York Giants. And today's game, the Giants were just content. This is my main problem with the game. The Giants were content with losing the game. Odell Beckham on the sideline, his facial expression showed it all. Now, he wasn't laughing, but you could tell he wasn't engaged. He wasn't excited about the game. This was his look on the sideline. He looked like he was about to cry on the sideline. What was Pat Shurmur's look on the sideline? It was this. That's Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur, you just want to throw a cold bucket of ice right on that dude's head, because it looks like he doesn't mind losing the game, and there's no urgency. In the third quarter, when the Giants are down 19-7 or whatever, the Giants get in the red zone. They suck in the red zone again. I did like the throw to Rhett Ellison. I thought Tony Romo was great on the broadcast today. Said the Giants should be taking shots down the field. He's saying Eli Manning. The best throws of the day were to Sterling Shepard, when you put him in the slot and you run that little corner out. I mean, Eli did hit that throw off of play action some. Now, this defensive line, if the Giants are going to be a really good team, the defensive line really has to start pushing people around, and the Giants got to grab the game by the balls. The Giants need to be assertive. They need to be the better team. There needs to be more passion and juice in this football team. I mean, I care certainly more than Pat Shurmur does, but it looks like every one of you guys cares a lot more than Pat Shurmur does when he's coaching. It looks like Shurmur is content with losing. Odell Beckham, your star player, sitting on the sideline. Giants get down, 19-7, and then 26-10. Alvin Kamara blasting the Giants. Taysom Hill going inside on the Giants. Drew Brees dropping some throws. Benjamin Watson even dropped some touchdowns, so this score could have been even more lopsided. The Saints defense was good. They would stuff the run. They'd get to Eli a little bit, and we don't have anybody to scare him down the football field. Now, Rhett Ellison is okay. Saquon's okay. The team isn't unbelievably horrible, but the team doesn't have a lot of pop either. You're looking at a 7-9, 6-10. You're looking at 5-11 or 6-10. And that's if you take care of business later in the season. But the point is, this team is not improving at all on a week-to-week basis. I mean, against Jacksonville, we look very similar in our offensive scheme. It's not like we're doing anything different. It's not like Eli's playing a lot better. It's not like we're really starting to smash the football and run it really well. The Houston game was a little bit better. The defense, we're just staying at a very poor to mediocre level, and nobody really has a problem with being pretty shitty of a team. No one has a problem with being 6-10 or 5-11. Now, I don't think that the Giants are the worst team in football. Maybe if their attitude gets worse, maybe if they're kind of like Beckham on the sideline, or they're continue to make some mistakes. But you look at this schedule, and going to Atlanta and playing a high-powered offense, playing Carolina, there aren't a lot of gimmies anymore in the NFL. And when you look at the Giants offense, it just isn't that great. When you look at Pat Shurmur, he is not the emotional guy that you'd want. Look at college football. Look at the best coaches in all of football. Dabo Swinney, really emotional. Every single play, he is amped up, and he has coaches every single play teaching. Look at Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart doesn't do this in a malicious way, but he'll grab sometimes the shoulder pads of guys, and he'll get in their face and tell them what to do. Like, he's on every single play. Like Kirby Smart, if you watch a Georgia Bulldog game, he is lurking on the sidelines every single play for college. You look at the NFL, Sean McVay is doing chest bumps with Jared Goff. Sean McVay's always scheming. Kyle Shanahan always thinking, always communicating. Doug Peterson on the sideline, controlling the game, coming up with aggressive play calls, looking at ways to be aggressive. Look at Tennessee. Mike Vrabel is so connected. You look at Gettleman and Pat Shurmur right now, and Gettleman's the general manager. He's not a Les Snead. He is not going to socialize with you. So Pat Shurmur is this quiet guy. There's no leaders on this football team. Maybe Alec Ogletree's the leader of the team, but you need an emotional leader. And Eli Manning, he's cool in the pocket, but, I'm just telling you, with Odell Beckham and Eli Manning and Saquon right now, it seems like even the younger kids like Saquon and Odell are more talkative than Eli Manning, and you just have a real disconnect in terms of the leadership of this team. And Eli's always been a quiet guy. Look at the championship leaders back in 2007. You had Michael Strahan, one of the greatest Giants to ever play, one of the greatest leaders in the history of football. You had Michael Strahan. You had Toomer and Eli Manning. Plexico Burress, Ahmad Bradshaw's an emotional leader. Brandon Jacobs was one of the most emotional offensive players. Pierre Paul was an emotional leader. If you look at Jason, you look at what he's even doing in Tampa this year, that dude is loud and can be heard. Justin Tuck is very, very smart. Heck, he's at an Ivy League school. He's at Penn right now. He's an emotional leader. He isn't going to let shit slide. Antonio Pierce, it's crazy how little Antonio Pierce played in the NFL. I read he only played like maybe 5 years. It seemed like Antonio Pierce was a Giant for 20 years because of the impact that he had on that 2017. The point is, you have Landon Collins, who's a leader. You're trying to get veterans. You're trying to get Ogletree to be a leader. Olivier Vernon's one of your most expensive players, and to tell you the truth, he's not necessarily in the ball games at all. And offensively right now, this is the thing, and this is where I'm really going to get controversial with it, okay? This is where I'm going to get controversial with this part of the video. I'll talk about the most controversial thing. I don't like the body language of Odell Beckham Jr. I know that people love Odell. I know that Odell's talented, and a lot of it isn't his fault. The problem with Odell Beckham is if he's not getting his piece of the pie, is he going to be okay? Is he going to continue to be up, to be rowdy? Or does he need to be the guy that needs to be involved, to be happy, to be successful? I think it's great when wide receivers, the perfect wide receiver room, in my opinion, is the LA Rams group, because you have no elite wide receivers, but you have all good wide receivers. So you have Brandon Cooks, who's a small guy, not a big ego, quiet. Cooper Kupp, exact same way. Robert Woods. These guys are tier B wide receivers in the NFL, and they're not going to be begging for the ball. They don't think they're the best player in the NFL. But look at Antonio Brown. Look at Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham had to leave the field today because he was visibly getting really, really upset. Now, this is going to sound hypocritical in a lot of ways because I want Pat Shurmur to be upset. The thing about Odell Beckham is at the end of the game, he was more in an apathetic mood where he was just like, he was depressed. There was no juice. Defensively, that's the thing, is that I want Odell Beckham to be clapping on his teammates, to be excited about the next play, to be optimistic. And that Giants sideline, that body language, there is no optimism with the New York Giants in their body language. They don't expect to win. They expect that they're a shitty group, and they are totally content with losing, and losing by a little bit. Eli, Odell, this whole team is just content with coming up short in the game. Let's get to a little nuances of the game. Fourth quarter was the only time I got jacked up. I mean, when Sterling caught the 2-point conversion, that was a hell of a drive by the Giants. When Eli went play action to Sterling down in the third quarter at the other end zone, that was an exciting time in the football game. Even when we were holding in the red zone, it still wasn't exciting. The Giants aren't making plays on the defensive side. There's no sack fumbles. I don't know if there was any turnovers today. We might be the only team in the NFL that does not have a defensive turnover. You look at how some teams can win ugly in the NFL, and it's because of turnovers. Actually, that's wrong. The Texans game was a turnover factory. The point is about the New York Giants is that I wanted to see everybody get the freaking crowd juiced during the game. Now, I wasn't at the game, but it didn't seem like the defense was getting the crowd juiced or amped. It didn't seem like people were amped. I want players that talk smack and get people amped. Even Odell has that chance to do that. But I want a guy, you know what guy I want? Like a Roquan Smith, like a Ray Lewis type of player, like a guy that is completely an emotional player. Kiko Alonso is a dirty player. I'm not saying to get a dirty player, but you need an attitude player. You need a loud player. You need passionate players. Like Jalen Ramsey hates to lose. I'll tell you a linebacker like Luke Kuechly is kind of a passionate player, but let me try to think of a guy that is very Terrell Suggs for the city of Baltimore is a rallying cry kind of a player. You know, look at like hard-hitting guys like Malcolm Jenkins are responsible players. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham connect with the Philadelphia Eagles. You need defensive players that are elite on the edge, connect with the fans, and can absolutely change a game. Elite game-making players, and I don't think we're being taught how to be that on the defensive side of the ball. I think we're working on our scheme, but we're not exactly improving every single week. Our players are not improving at all. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Giants just went down to the Saints today. It's looking like another long year. When they lost, I wasn't very angry when they lost, in all honesty, because I feel like I care more than Pat Shurmur. I have more emotional attachment to John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders often than I do the Giants now. And maybe that's a personal... you know what? I think that's a personal problem with me, is that, the past couple of years as I've studied the NFL, if I don't like the direction or if I don't like how the head coach is acting, then I'll just tune out. Point is, I'm still going to watch the Giants. I'm still going to root for them to be successful. But today's feeling of losing, it just feels numb. You just feel numb to losing. And then you're like, you know what, John Mara, if you're going to keep hiring like guys that are just mad guys, it's your team after a while. Like, you're going to continue to see the team just do stupid shit. You're going to see the team cut Davis Webb, an emotional leader, which really hurt. You're going to have Pat Shurmur there, and Shurmur cuts Davis Webb, but then Shurmur's going to be over there on the sidelines, and he's going to show no emotion. You're going to hire Mike Shula. You're not going to call any deep shots. You're going to sign Beckham to a big-time contract. If I was running the New York Giants, I'd look to get rid of Odell Beckham, because I don't like the sideline attitude. The guy is making too much money. It's too much of a circus with Odell Beckham, with the media and everything around him. It's time for the Giants to just start building this offensive line. Too many skill position players. And you need offensive line. I mean, the identity needs to change. You don't want your best players being wide receivers. Odell Beckham's a decent guy. I never said that he's an evil guy. I never said that he's a bad guy off the field. Okay, I think he's a responsible guy now off the field. It's just that you can get a lot of value from him, and his body language, frankly, is horrible. And I know a lot of people will disagree, or a lot of people will call me a hater of Odell Beckham. A lot of people will say you don't like millennial wide receivers, that you don't like the new school of players. And frankly, Odell Beckham, he can keep being on this team, whatever. He can have that look on the sideline. But I'm telling you, little things matter in life. And the body language of this group is horrible. And even if a couple of guys are showing bad body language, it can permeate throughout a team. And it's up to Odell to be a leader of this team. And if you have a guy like Eli Apple last year showed terrible body language, Rogers Cromartie too. If you're going to have guys like that, eventually you have to get in guys that are going to be in there on a day in, day out basis. Like Alec Ogletree to me is a leader. Alec's body language can be emulated by people on this team. And that's the thing. Maybe it's not just Beckham. We just need some fire and emotion in our franchise. You look at the New York Giants today. There is no confidence. There's no juice in this franchise. There's no Baker Mayfield. There's no Jarvis Landry. There's no dogs on this team. They are not getting angry. There's no emotion. There's no pumping up the crowd. There's no game-changing plays. It is not fun, not entertaining, and no threat of switching games in a snap. You want players that can change games and make things happen. The Giants don't have any of that, and their attitude is not in the right place, and Pat Shurmur's as bland as a board, and I wish that he'd go, and I wish he'd get a little angry, show a little bit of positive emotion, or even negative emotion. Just show some kind of emotion, Pat. Anyway, another loss. The Giants are becoming content with losing. They're becoming comfortable with being losers.